Welcome to this special edition of Go Vote Omaha. This is a primary election candidate forum for the Omaha Public Schools Board of Education, Subdistricts 2 and 6, presented by the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. I'm Jerry Simon, a League member and moderator for the forum. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes political parties or candidates. We present this forum solely for voter education. Here's the format for our forum. Each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement. We'll follow that with questions and answers. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to answer a question, and all candidates will answer the same questions. We'll conclude our forum with a 1-minute closing statement. A timekeeper will alert the candidates when they have 30 seconds of time remaining and when to stop speaking. Before the forum, the candidates drew lots to determine their initial speaking order, and I will introduce you to them in that order now. In Subdistrict 2, the candidates are Marlon Brewer, Zach Boiko, and Mark Snow. And running in Subdistrict 6, we have Jeff Jezewski, Mike Moody, and Nancy Kratky. And we'll begin with our opening statements, starting with Subdistrict 2 candidates with Marlon Brewer.
Hi, I'm Marlon Brewer, and I'm running for OPS School Board Subdistrict 2. A little bit about myself, and the reason I'm running is due to my deep roots in the Omaha community. I'm Omaha Central grad, also a UNO grad. What drove me to run for OPS School Board is just the field of work I work in is advocating for children in foster care, and I've seen the achievement gap for a lot of children that are state wards and a lot of children that are coming from poor socioeconomic backgrounds. I feel as a candidate that I can truly bridge the achievement gap and focus on the children that we're serving, and really advocate for them because I have a good grasp of the community and the population in Subdistrict 2.
Thank you. Zach Boiko.
Hi, my name is Zach Boiko. I'm running for Subdistrict 2 in the Omaha Public School. I'm running because I love my community. I love the schools. I'm an Omaha South High graduate, and I saw a lot of issues during the 2009 era when I was first starting in high school. I just want to be an additional voice to the voters, and that's all I have.
Thank you. And Mark Snow.
Hello, my name is Mark Snow. I am currently the president of the Omaha Public School Board at OPS. And I'm running for re-election for 2 reasons. The first reason, our district started a path on closing the achievement gap with our lowest performing schools. And we have 10 schools, and we call them REACH schools. And over the time, we've reallocated resources from within the district to really focus in on these high-need schools. And to continue that with the next superintendent, as well as the second reason why I'm running for re-election is over the last couple years, the board has been stabilizing and we've been more cohesive in our decision making and focused on our district and moving our students forward for the 53,000 kids that we serve every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear opening statements from our Subdistrict 6 candidates, beginning with Jeff Jezewski.
I'm Jeff Jezewski. I'm 54 years old and I'm a lifelong resident of Omaha. I attended OPS schools throughout and graduated in 1982. My wife Amy and I have been married for 22 years, and we have 3 children, 2 of whom have graduated from OPS and 1 of whom is a freshman in OPS right now. I have 30 years of real world business experience, and OPS has a mission to prepare all its students to excel. I think they do a good job preparing some of their students. I know they do. I want to help OPS prepare all of its students.
Thank you. Mike Moody.
My name is Mike Moody. I am also a candidate for the Omaha Public School Board, Subdistrict 6. And I'm running because for all intents and purposes, I've spent my entire life in education. Started school when I was 6 years old. And I've been a para-educator, a teacher, a coach, a counselor, an elementary principal, superintendent, administration. And about the only thing that I haven't done is be on the school board side of things. I wrote my dissertation on superintendent board relations. Obviously, from the lens of a superintendent, I feel I can leverage those skills to help the board go to the next level, and I'm excited about entering the next level of my educational career. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nancy Kratky.
Hello, I'm Nancy Kratky, and I'm rerunning for the school board. I was on it before for 18 years, and I enjoyed doing that. And I'm running because I've been born into OPS. I started school at 4½, and I was in OPS schools, and then I went to UNO, and I student taught in OPS, and I was teaching in OPS, and then I'm on the board in OPS. And I've always done things with OPS, and I care a lot about the directions we are going. I have the history, knowledge, and experience, and I want to put it to good use, and I want to help with our transition with the new superintendent of schools. And I would thank you for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go right to our questions, and we're going to start with our Subdistrict 6 candidates, beginning with Mike Moody. You'll take the first question. Given the need for cutting $26 million in the OPS budget, do you approve of the budget cutting strategy developed by the current board? Should the district do a levy override, much like Millard and Westside did for budget shortfalls? And if they do, when?
Well, school budgeting is a complex topic. There's no doubt about it. OPS definitely needs to look at, examine the possibilities of a levy override. I told then Governor Nelson 30 years ago that a $1.05 limit on property tax would never fly. It took me 30 years to prove I'm right. He made it to the Senate, and I'm here as a candidate for the school board. The district needs to step up to the plate and look at a levy override, which are very difficult. But the state of Nebraska, the unicameral, also needs to come to the realization that they've put schooling on a starvation diet. And a lot of the conversations we're having right now about school budgets are, you know, pay me now or pay me later. And the bond issue fits right into that.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Kratky.
Well, I know that we're going to have some difficulty with the budget, and I was thinking of how they can reduce some of what is going on, and we know that's going to happen. They've discussed some of the busing issues, and they've discussed other means. Attrition is always a possibility, and I do think we need the paras, so I hope they're not deciding to cut those. They're spread thin right now, and I think that it's a growing problem for them, but I've been through this before on OPS. There have been times before when we've been in the same situation, and somehow we managed to get through it, and we managed to put the resources where they need to be.
Thank you. And Jeff Jezewski.
Well, in terms of the approach that they've taken to find the $26 million in cuts, I think more of that has to be initiated within the administration. I believe that they've had this Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, and I think that that is instead the responsibility of the administration to bring ideas to the board, and then the board can decide if that's the right way to go. In terms of a levy override, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I think there is plenty of opportunity within the district today to find monies that can be saved, and a levy override would absolutely be the last resort that I would advocate. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not certain that a levy override is something that the citizens of OPS would be willing to approve.
Thank you. Now our Subdistrict 2 candidates, beginning with Zach Boiko.
I don't have a whole lot of experience when it comes to budgeting, but I know that the 26 million shortfall is an important issue. I think the ideas that are coming up right now with the board are great. They're examining all possibilities, not just some of the possibilities. I want to see where they take that, and if we need to make additional cuts after the election, we'll examine those as well, whoever wins the election. So we need to take into consideration that this is going to affect our students, their parents, and the staff at our schools. It's not just going to be the board or the superintendent. It's going to affect everybody, and we're going to have to pool together to best serve our needs as a community with this school board.
Thank you. Mark Snow.
So, excuse me. So the 26 million, I think the district has started off on a transparency level, showing that we are going to take the time to go through this budget advisory committee, which is made up with community members, teachers, administration, as well as we have a facilitator. So, and the meetings are public, and actually the committee gets a slew of potential reductions in the district. And if anybody on the committee wants to see what does it look like if we remove this department or cut this, it's brought into the committee. The committee will make their recommendations, and that will be sent to the Board of Education. We'll have 2 workshops where the board can massage and either accept some of the recommendations or adds to that. And then the board will have 2 board meetings. And this is not just for ourselves, but this is for the community, so everyone can see that we are taking this very seriously in making these cuts. But moving forward, once this is done, it is up to the board to work with our legislature to make sure that we can put up another bill in Lincoln to deal with this pension obligation issue. This isn't going to go away. So we have to have determined people and people that are ready to hit the ground running, because in January during the long session is our next opportunity to fix this issue.
Thank you. Marlon Brewer.
Excuse me. As far as supporting the levy override, I absolutely think it was the last thing to do. With this budget, and I think a few other candidates stated it as well, I think we have to put the responsibility on the state for educating our children and supporting OPS from a financial standpoint. When we're talking about budget cuts, my main focus is how does this affect the children and the staff. We don't want to continue to lose staff. We don't want to lose staff to other districts. And I think when we're talking about, cutting certain things out, that how does it affect our children and the impact it's going to have on the children's education. I'm a firm believer in efficiency. I think, I'm a forward thinker, so where my mind automatically goes to, how do we prevent this from happening again, and how can we be more efficient? There are some things I think with a budget cut we can, I think it'll help us get more efficient at certain things where we're not wasting dollars, but my main focus is, yes, I would absolutely support it if it was the last thing, but what other options are out there?
Okay, thank you. And here's our next question. We'll start with Subdistrict 2 candidates. Do you support the bond issue for Phase 2 that is on the ballot this May? Why or why not? And we'll start with Mark Snow.
Absolutely, yes. 2014, we went out to the community, and thank you, voters, for supporting the Phase 1 bond 2-to-1. We had deferred maintenance for over 15 years. And we did a needs analysis and assessment, and it came back that we had over $1 billion in deferred maintenance. And our students deserve better. When we want our students to be in safe, secure schools and ready to learn, they need to have an environment that they can learn in safely. The teachers need to have an environment that they can be in to teach their students and have the equipment there. So we split the bond up into 2, $421 million in Phase 1, and now we're here with Phase 2 with $409 million. 409.9 million. And this Phase 2 is dealing with capacity. If you go to Spring Lake, it's an elementary school with over 800 students in it. No elementary school should be that large, have that many kids. But South Omaha has a capacity issue. South High, sitting roughly at 2,500 students. Bryan High, all those schools are at capacity. And then you also have out in Northwest Omaha where they don't have a school. So looking at those capacity issues there, that's the reason why I support Phase 2. But also we have $140 million in maintenance and HVAC system upgrades. If we do not pass this bond, that $140 million will be sitting on our plate, and we'll have to pay for it out of our general fund if a boiler goes out at one of our facilities. So it's basically paying it forward because these facilities are for our kids.
Thank you. Marlon Brewer.
Phase 2 of the bond, it's pretty complex. There's parts of the bond that I do agree with and parts of the bond that I feel I'm not totally on board with. But what I do understand and what I do agree with is that there are a lot of schools that need upgrades. And being a student from OPS, and I remember going to certain schools, and my kids' school particularly, where they had dividers. They didn't have classrooms, and they were part of the first phase. So they now have classrooms. So I do agree with it. The part where I'm not 100% on board with is part of the high schools and us having this budget issue, and then staffing, and how can we do that efficiently? And if we're cutting busing, then how are we going to offer our children, options to those schools? OPS has historically been schools where you have multiple options, and if busing is cut out, we're not going to have those options. That was one of the great things about being a part of an OPS student. So, and then again, just forward thinking, how could we have planned this better to where it's not so much at one time?
Thank you. Zach Boiko.
I'm totally on board with the bond issue. I think it's just poor timing, but the understanding that it was coming this year was widely known. So I think other issues just came up abruptly, and we just have to look forward and see what we can do. We need to have those additional schools in South Omaha. I remember as a South Omaha student, we were pretty crowded. We had a couple thousand students in there, and it made classrooms very difficult and increased the heat of the actual classrooms. So it made it uncomfortable for students in some classrooms. So we have to look at what's comfortable for the students as well, because if the students aren't comfortable, they aren't going to pay attention, they aren't going to learn well. Having an additional high school down there, that's going to improve the comfortability by spreading out the student body into 2 schools and allow them a space where they're not so crowded. As far as the Northwest Omaha, I know they have Northwest High School, but having an additional high school would be proactive.
Thank you. Now our Subdistrict 6 candidates. Nancy Kratky, would you go first, please?
So we're talking about what we're going to do about the budget and override, and what we're going to do for the students. And it's a real problem. We know that already, so we're going to have to plan ahead to take care of all of this. And can you rephrase that question for me?
Do you support the bond issue for Phase 2 on the May ballot?
Yes, and there are people who say we don't need that. There are people who have said we don't need air conditioning. And so that was a point that I can only remember being on the 5th floor at Central High School when it was 100 and something degrees, visiting the school. It was just sweltering. You could hardly breathe in there. That is a no-brainer. We can't do that. So there are people who think that we can get by and do different things that we absolutely cannot do. And I think we can stall some things to make up the shortfall, but not the basic needs of some of these students in the schools.
Thank you. Jeff Jezewski.
Well, I support the bond issue. And the way I look at it is, if you look at the infrastructure in this country today, all across the country, including here in Omaha, it's collapsing. And so ultimately, whether you're a fiscal conservative as I am or not, ultimately, somewhere along the line, you have to make the decision to invest in the future, okay? And that's what this bond issue represents as well. The other point that I would make is that if you'll recall when the initial bond issue came out 4 or 5 years ago, the idea was if OPS performed well, under the first bond issue, then there would be a follow-up bond issue. And the fact of the matter is OPS has performed well under the first bond issue. Most of the projects have come in under budget, okay? And so this is not a surprise. This is something that's been planned. The other part is, the final part, is that there's very little opportunity for development within OPS, and that high school in Northwest Omaha that the neighbors have been clamoring for is one of the few opportunities left for OPS to capture additional tax base. So therefore, I'm supportive of the bond issue.
Thank you. Mike Moody.
Well, this question really, I think, needs to start with the first question. And you really need to look at what the board is currently engaged in looking at making budget cuts, and they've done a great job of, and I picture it kind of like a target. In the middle of that target, you know, the bullseye is the heart of education, and that is a student, a teacher, in a safe classroom with a relevant, rigorous curriculum. And they're looking at going as far out away from the bullseye as they can to make those cuts, which is commendable. But the problem is you make those cuts this year and there are consequences. The thing is that those cuts are a Band-Aid. They're going to be revisiting that target next year, and it will shrink if we don't do something about funding. And I was at one of the information meetings that both Jim and I were at, and this guy went on and on and on about deferred maintenance. What are you thinking of? Well, deferred maintenance is on the outside of the target. And when you're on a starvation diet, and I can tell you I've been there, you defer maintenance to spend on kids and teachers and curriculum. And I'm running out of time, so the heart is you've got to do the maintenance, you've got to fund the schools. The Northwest project is out of the box thinking. It's the collaborative between the YMCA and the school, and I'm all for it, and there's an unserved need that needs to be met.
Thank you. Here's our next question. The need for civics education has been much discussed in the news lately. How do the Omaha Public Schools measure up when it comes to educating students about civics and government? Are improvements needed? And we'll begin with Subdistrict 6 with Jeff.
Well, you know, I don't know all the answers, and I don't claim to know all the answers, and I can't tell you specifically how OPS measures up overall in terms of civics education. I can tell you that I watched as my two older children went through OPS, one who attended Central, the other who attended Burke. Both had exceptional opportunities to enroll in a wide array of courses, including AP Government and AP History, and both took advantage of those opportunities. And so I would say in response that certainly the opportunities are there for the kids within OPS. It's up to the kids and the families of those kids to take advantage of those opportunities.
Thank you. Mike.
When you look at education, whether it's civics or math, English, every day you have to be better than you were yesterday. Now, targeting civics as an old social studies teacher, I think we're doing an adequate job. Is it good enough? It's never good enough. Tomorrow's got to be better. It's disappointing that the number of people in this country who are not going to participate in the election, when 16, 17, 18% of the people are electing their representatives on school boards and unicamerals and all types of representative positions, it's sad. But does that fall back on the school? And most of the conversation I'm hearing about this topic is coming from Lincoln. And to me, the more we give up of our local control to the unicameral to decide, or the State Board of Education to decide what should be taking place in the classroom, the more diluted what we can do in the classroom becomes. So yes, let's get better at civics education, but let's do it here in Omaha, not in Lincoln.
Thank you. Nancy.
I'm a real proponent of that, of civics education, and I believe that the students, there should be one basic kind of a class that they will go through, and they will be apprised of a lot of the things that are out there, the election process and what that is about, and how they can take part in it. But they need to know something before they can make some of those judgments. And I don't like the idea that some of them are graduating without having that class and having that history behind them.
Thank you. And our Subdistrict 2 candidates, we'll start with Marlon.
Excuse me. I think OPS is doing a great job of teaching a certain group of kids about civics, but are they teaching every child about it? No. OPS is a very diverse district, and there are a lot of children who parents or families who don't know a whole lot about civics, so they rely on our school district to educate them about that. A lot of these children learn differently, so how are we bringing those children in? Those are the children that I'm concerned about, because I don't feel like they're having a fair shot at getting to learn different, or getting the opportunity to learn different things, because they don't have that history, they don't have that good grasp on it. So I think OPS can do a better job of reaching out to different children or different group of children and children that learn differently to bring them into, and I think that will increase overall all of the children learning about civics and putting that emphasis on that.
Okay, thank you. Zach?
I think we can always expand on civics education. Our students have shown us recently that they do have some civics education with their national walkouts that they've been conducting. I'm actually very, very proud of our students for doing that. It doesn't matter what anybody's opinion is on what they've done. The fact that they're getting involved with our process of government is important to show that Omaha really is blooming when it comes to civics education. We can always expand on that because there are students that are not taking those courses, and we need to reach out to those children and their families to encourage them to take those courses and learn about their government.
Thank you. And Mark?
So the question is civic engagement, correct?
How, civics education, the need for it, and how does Omaha Public Schools measure up to that?
I would say I think OPS stands up very well. It's all about empowering that student body. So I'll give you an example right now. You can go to any high school, and the League of Women Voters are in our high schools registering our students to vote. You have other organizations, College Possible, other groups engaging our students. This is what a community is about, and when students and when the district partners with nonprofits and community members to come in and help our students, they actually get to see outside the classroom. It's not just their teacher that has to teach that civics, it's also the community, because the community has to be there to show them that they need to exercise their right and their vote. The walkouts, an amazing show of OPS understanding the situation and what our students are going through and not standing in the way, but also making sure that our students are protected and safe. Civic studies in OPS. Right now, there's an Americanism committee, and they upgrade our civic studies and history. So we have Keeping History Alive, which is in North Omaha, so we actually take students down the street to understand the history of historic North Omaha. And that is just one of the small things that OPS is doing, and I really do believe you can take this large urban school district and compare it to any other school district, and we do quite well.
Thank you. Okay, our next question. What should OPS do to prevent gun violence in schools and to protect students from such violence? And what other safety issues are there that need to be addressed in the public schools? And we'll start with Subdistrict 2 with Zach.
As a security professional for 7 years, I've actually worked in several different businesses and around the community. I think as far as the schools go, we've had a incident recently that was handled very well with the response of Omaha Police Department. I think that we need to continue that that kind of work from our police. But as far as an immediate response to a incident like what happened at Stoneman Douglas, we need to have an immediate response, but we also need to have a preventative response. So I would like to see a two-pronged approach, additional training for our staff to see that there is a problem, and a response team that is paid specifically to respond to these problems. I think that we currently have contracts in OPS for security officers, as well as hire directly through the district. They're unarmed. I think it would be proactive to allow them to be armed or
Thank you.
train them to arm.
Thank you. Mark?
So let's go back to 2013 when I was elected on the board with my colleagues. In 2013 in OPS, you can go to any elementary school and high school and open those doors. There was no security system. There was nothing to prevent people from walking into a school. Today, because of Phase 1 bond and what Phase 2 will also provide, is that fire, life, and safety to protect our schools. So in order to come in, you still have to buzz in to get in. That is a preventive measure there. Also, what OPS did in 2013 when we got on the board was to expand our security to all our elementary schools. In 2013, we did not have security officials at every elementary school, but today we have security officials in every facility in Omaha Public Schools. We've also increased our contract with the SRO program with the City of Omaha. If you guys have been watching the news recently, the City of Omaha is beefing up or adding more resources to their SRO program to help prepare and keep Omaha Public Schools safe. We always want to make sure our students are safe. That's our number one deal there. When parents give us their most precious resource to the district, it is our job to protect them. And I think we take that very seriously with our school resource officers, our safety program, and I think OPS is ahead of the curveball. We can still do more, but it is working alongside with the police department as well as with our security to make sure that we keep our students safe.
Thank you. Marlon?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. What should OPS do to prevent gun violence in schools and to protect students from such violence? Are there other safety issues that should be addressed?
So gun violence in schools, I think OPS do a great job. I actually agree with like what Mark stated in the camera and getting buzzed in the elementary. I think elementary schools are superb. I think it's much difficult for high schools because they're much more massive, and high school students have the opportunity to kind of come and go. You have kids getting out a little earlier, so it's a lot harder to kind of police the high school students because they're much more independent and much more bigger. So I think OPS can get better at the high schools, and I think that would just be partnering with Omaha Police Department and enhancing security, at all entrances. What's the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Any other safety issues that should be addressed?
I think a lot of safety issues, what I think would tie into security with school is the bullying and then mental health and addressing mental health with the children that we're working with in OPS. There are a lot of children that are traumatized that went through a ton of different things or in their own personal life that I think if OPS can help, we can prevent a lot of these mass shootings. There are a lot of children in care. There's a lot of children in OPS that are dealing with multiple traumas and mental health. So I think beefing that up and the bullying, I think we will by nature eliminate some of the safety concerns.
Thank you. Now our Subdistrict 6 candidates, we'll start with Mike.
Really, you've got two layers here. And I think the conversation really gets blurred when we talk about gun violence and school safety in the same breath. What can a school do about gun violence? Little, if anything. That's a much bigger issue. Safety and security is another issue. And like President Snow has alluded to, I think they've done a very good job of tightening down the schools. We got to keep in mind, 2,500 kids going into South High School, that's hard to make it safe and secure at all times. The other thing is you have to keep in mind is that kids are more likely to get injured at home in their bathroom than they are at school. The data's out there. I'm not making that up. The thing is when we have a Sandy Hook or an event like that, it gets a lot of attention. We don't want to downplay it. We cannot be too safe and have our kids too secure. But we have committees that look at safety and security a lot of times almost on a daily basis, depending on what's going on in the national news. But we need to work on that. Those are all expensive issues, and we need to do some research on really what's going on and what kind of methodologies can we look at to prevent mental health, some common sense gun issue laws. All of those things need to be in the conversation.
Thank you. Nancy?
This is such an interesting subject and topic that we could go on and on about this for a very long time. When I attended conventions, I always went to the Ken Trump meetings, and he is the main person that does a lot of this. And he did come and visit OPS also. In our schools, we have the keyed situation to use the key to get in, and it depends on some of the schools. Children aren't searched, but they're going through a wand. People can show up at any time, the SROs, the police department, and make a long line of students coming in a door. We couldn't do that on a daily basis. That just wouldn't work because there's too many students to do that with. We have all kinds of things at our disposal there. The keyed thing, the SROs, the policemen, and some of them are not in their clothing. They are maybe disguised as they're in the schools and taking part in all of that. I just think that's one of our main things. I used to wonder, was it academics or was it safety? But in today's world, it is the safety.
Thank you. And Jeff?
It's really disappointing, Nancy, that it has to be about the safety because the school should be about education. So, you know, what does OPS need to do? OPS needs to, plan and practice and employ best practices in order to create a safe environment for our kids in the schools, and that never stops. You're constantly monitoring and evaluating to ensure that you're doing what is appropriate and necessary to maintain a safe environment. The other thing Mark mentioned is, the initial bond issue contained many physical improvements to enhance and improve the safety of the buildings. And many of those items are again included in the second bond issue. So you have to continue to invest in the physical part of it to ensure a safe environment, as well as planning and practicing and employing best practices.
Thank you. Our next question. Since the unicameral did not pass restructuring of the OPS bonds for pension funds, which has contributed to the budget issues, how should that situation be handled? And we'll begin with Subdistrict 6 with Nancy.
It has to be handled because the pensions are with the contract. I mean, they cannot break the contract of the people who have already signed the contracts, and they're assured of a certain amount before they are leaving the district. And that's what we have to do. I don't know any other way we're going to handle it. Maybe in another time when they start the contract over again and do some work on that, they can do it in a different manner. But right now they have to assure them of getting their pension.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, this is an area that I think I can use my 30 years of real-world business experience to help the district. This is a massive issue that really hasn't emerged as a public issue, but it's not something that is going to go away anytime soon. Certainly, we have to work with the legislature on this to help alleviate, and we need to bring to the table any number of ideas to help us address this. Unfortunately, It's going to be very difficult to convince our legislators to assist OPS in this problem. And if it isn't addressed through legislation, it can really be devastating to the district if the district has to go fund this obligation by themselves. In fact, it may be impossible. So I want to work with the legislature and the board members to come up with a plan to best approach it, and it's going to be a very difficult task, and I think I can help with that.
Thank you. Mike?
Maybe a little background on retirement system. Every month, teachers get a paycheck. Out of that paycheck, the district takes out approximately 7.762%. I used to do this. And the district matches it 101%. It goes into a pool to cover the retirement expenses when those people reach the rule of 85, which is 30 years in the system, and your age is 55, that adds up to 85, you're eligible for retirement. It's an obligation by the district. The state of Nebraska could have stepped up to the plate, offered the district an alternative to make up for the shortfall. I think some of the parameters right now on the district in terms of what they're required to have funded in the total budget of retirement is a little draconian, then maybe need some legislative adjustments there. But at the end of the day, it's our obligation. These people, it's their money, they've worked for it, and we have to make sure it's there. But we can't take it out of the classroom and out of the instructional budget.
Thank you. Subdistrict 2 candidates, we'll start with Marque.
Thank you. So I agree with everything that's been said so far on the pension obligation of OPS. OPS has always made their ARC payments, additional retirement contribution, so we've always been making those payments. However, that number can no longer continue to grow to allow OPS to be functional. Can OPS operate under 90 cents? I doubt it. So what we have to do is we have to work with our Omaha senators. Right now, they are getting calls. They see the issue that lies ahead with the district already making $26 million in cuts. So working with them on that regulation, on that statute of whether we do another pension obligation bond, which I highly doubt it, we still have some opportunities where we could lower that 101% down to 80 to save the district some additional resources, because nationally, most public pensions aren't required and aren't funded at 101%. But that is something we can work with our state senators. We're also going to have to work with our Teachers Association as well as others in the district so they can go down and lobby our state senators. This is now a time for Nebraska, OPS, Omaha, to be involved and go to Lincoln and let those senators know that aren't from Omaha of the severity that lies ahead.
Thank you. Marlon?
Yeah, I would agree that it is a huge, huge issue, and oh man, I personally think, when you talk about budgets and you're talking about, a $26 million shortfall, my heart automatically goes to, okay, if our teachers aren't secure and they're bolting to the other districts, how does that affect the students? How does that affect the education? So I agree wholeheartedly with the other candidates on, we have to put pressure on the senators to understand, OPS is a different district than any other district in the state of Nebraska, and we're working with a large population of children, and that is, steadily growing, as well as staff. So I think putting the pressure, on the state of Nebraska to work with our district a little bit more differently.
Okay. And Zach?
I've already started work on figuring out why the unicameral was reluctant to pass that issue. As far as the senators are concerned, they are worried about what happened in 2009 with the investments, and how those investments were made. And those are issues that are not as prevalent now as they were back then. I would like to see more involvement with the senators out in western Nebraska, and speak with them about what has been transforming in this district, to let them know, hey, we can make a positive improvement here. We just need a boost to assist with that.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to our closing statements now for the forum, and we're going to begin with our Subdistrict 2 candidates, beginning with Marlon Brewer.
Again, I'm Marlon. I'm running for OPS School Board Subdistrict 2. I feel I'm a great candidate just because I am an advocate for children, as well as the main focus is closing the achievement gap. I also bring innovative thinking outside the box, and forward thinking. The issues that we're having now, how can we prevent them in the next 10, 15, 20 years? How does it affect our staff? How does it affect our children? I also am a team player. I am willing to listen to the board members and be open and agree to disagree and just work as a collective. And I think that's the best practice in order for us to move forward. So I feel I would love your vote, and Marlon Brewer for OPS School Board Subdistrict 2.
Thank you. Zach Boiko.
My name is Zach Boiko. I'm running for OPS Subdistrict 2. I'm running for this position because I love my community, and I would love to see changes made in OPS, not just as security measures, but I would like to see the issue with the budget remedied as well. I would like to also see further improvement on the education of our students, improve and prepare them better for college. A lot of our students are choosing not to go to college and choosing to go into the workforce, and I'd like to see them do both, college and workforce, and the tools for them to do that should be here at OPS.
Thank you. Mark Snow.
Thank you. So I'm running for re-election, like I mentioned before. We need stability more than ever in OPS. If we have a $26 million reduction and that number is projected to go to $40 million, we need stability on the board. We need leadership on our board. Dr. Cheryl Logan, our new superintendent, starts in July, and she needs a solid board that is going to support her and allow her to take the risk of helping our most vulnerable students achieve their highest potential. And one of the things that I believe that we can do is continue the great work that we have going on already this year. So with that, I hope I can earn your vote again, Omaha, and with that I will continue, and I will make sure before I leave this board that we do have a remedy towards the pension obligation that OPS currently faces. Thank you.
And now we'll have our closing statements from the Subdistrict 6 candidates, beginning with Jeff Jezewski.
Well, I'll just reiterate, I have 30 years of real-world business experience that I think I can use to help OPS address some of its budget issues as well as its pension issues. I've had 3 kids, 2 of whom have graduated from OPS schools, one who's a freshman in OPS schools. I will work relentlessly to eliminate the achievement gap. I will work to make certain that the curriculum is appropriate and rigorous. I'll help to ensure that the safety of our kids are of the utmost priority. And I will work to make certain that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. So I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Mike Moody.
Our children are our most valuable resource. It may sound cliche, but they are our future. And adequately educating our children is a moral obligation. And it's not just a moral obligation of parents or of the community, it's a moral obligation of all of us. And so I encourage people to get involved with the process. I'm running for board as a cheerleader for that idea, to get people more engaged in the process. I'm really impressed with the 6, well, myself of course, but the other 5 candidates, really high quality. And back to the civics question, get out and vote. Make your vote count, get engaged, make sure we take care of our kids.
Thank you. And Nancy Kratky.
My goal is to help OPS and help all the students achieve their highest potential. And as your board member, I will continue to enforce and raise the district standards, provide enrichment for all the students, and distribute the resources equitably. I will encourage the continuation and updating of the safety practices in our schools and promote the financial responsibility that we need to make certain that we're investing our monies properly. In addition, I want to see them implement a plan for every student to graduate program, and wherever they go after that is another thing. There's always more that we can do for our students in the education process.
Thank you. Well, that's our forum for the Omaha Public Schools Board of Education Subdistricts 2 and 6, and we thank all the candidates for participating in the forum. The League would also like voters to know that our voters guide is out, the hard copy in print. It's available at all the Omaha Public Library locations and also at the Douglas County Election Commissioner's office. And besides our televised forums, which we've been presenting through the election season, we also have our voters guide is online at omahalwv.org, and you can also go to vote411.org to get additional information. The candidates were able to answer a few more questions that appear in the hard copy of the voters guide. Our televised voters forums, we will have for the unicameral legislative districts 6, 8, and 20. We've done the Republican primary for the Douglas County Assessor Register of Deeds, State Board of Education District 8, OPPD Subdistrict 1. We've also done a program on the OPS bond issue. And then for the federal races, we've done the Democratic primary for the 2nd Congressional District, and we are doing a Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate as well. So we invite you to look for all of those forums. They are going to air on KPAO. It's Cox Channel 22 or CenturyLink Channel 89. And I know the station is going to be doing a marathon of back-to-back forums if you miss one of them. There's still an opportunity to see them if you do miss one of the forums, because we will put them on the League of Women Voters Go Vote Omaha YouTube channel, and you can watch them at any time. So for the League of Women Voters, I'm Jerry Simon, reminding you to inform yourself about the issues and the candidates, and in the primary election on May 15th, go vote Omaha.